So the other day, a couple weeks ago, I was messing with the computer, and I finally got the motivation. I was like, I should do some really light, rudimentary background music for some of my videos. So I started plotting stuff out and doing beats and other things like that. And then I got a MIDI error on my computer because I kept on unplugging all the devices and plugging them back in, so it was giving me a MIDI error. So I was like, well, I just need to reset the computer, and that should flush that out. So I go to reset the computer, and computer didn't come back on. It just keeps on power cycling. Nothing I was doing was getting it to come back on. So I was like, okay, well, that's interesting. So took it all apart, took everything out, so it's just a motherboard, CPU, and power supply. And it's still power cycling, which tells us it's either a power supply issue, motherboard issue, or CPU issue. So I was like, well, I don't have any way to test any of those three things because I don't have an additional power supply, an additional motherboard, or an additional CPU. So I decided to load it up and take it to the computer shop and see if they could take a look at it. So they print me out a work order, and it says typically repairs take 1 to 4 business days. So I was like, okay, well, that's interesting. I'll give them a couple of days and see what's going on. So a couple of days go by, no phone call or nothing. So I was like, well, I'll wait the 4 days just to be sure because I don't want to be, a pest. So I wait the 4 days, and then I call, and they're like, oh, yeah, we just got her cracked open. We were a little bit busy. Okay, whatever. So I wait a few more days, and then I give them a call when it was on the 8th day. So I was like, I'll give them a week. So then I give them a call on the 8th day, and they're like, yeah, we're trying all we can, and we can't figure out the issue. Okay, so I decided 2 days later to actually physically go by the place and see if I could give them some additional motivation. And they still didn't know what was going on. They said, we're going to try a couple more things. So I come home, and then I waited a couple more days. So I was like, man, nuts this. I'm just going to order the parts, do a new build, and apparently if the computer shop can't get it figured out, then, it must be truly an issue. I can either go Intel, like what I have been, or I can go AMD. Since AMD is actually making decent processors now, there's choice. Where back in, 7 years ago when I built my PC, basically it was Intel or a more anemic AMD processor. So what it currently has is the Intel i7 4790K, which is a quad-core hyper-thread, and I believe it's, 4.3 gigahertz, I think? I can't recall. Anyway, so decided to go ahead and update to the Ryzen 9, which is 12 cores, hyper-threaded, and I believe this gets us up to 4.6 gigahertz max boost. So this is quite an upgrade over this thing. So since we're going AMD, and since we're going to a brand new chip, then that means we got to get a new motherboard as well. So I was looking, and this tower is a micro ATX tower. And I liked having the micro ATX because I like it being more compact. I was looking online, and unfortunately there's only one Ryzen AM4 socket micro ATX board, and it wasn't getting all that many great reviews. I went to PCGamingMagazine.com and was looking at them, and they were saying that if you need a micro ATX board, that's really the only choice you have, but they would caution to go to ATX if you possibly can. So I was like, well, screw it. I guess I'll just go ATX, which is kind of cool because now basically I'm much more suited for any possible upgrades. So with an ATX, it's much more, widespread. That's the normal. Micro ATX is abnormal. So when you have the average size, then it's just easier to get components and you can be more competitive. So I decided to go with the Gigabyte X570 Oros Elite, which the only reason I went with the Elite over just the standard was because this one had multiple audio ports, and this is running a Gigabyte Ultra durable motherboard. And for some reason, my input switched from stereo to mono. I couldn't figure out why. So I was able to go into BIOS and change the subwoofer out to be my input, and that fixed the issue. So with the standard motherboard, it only had 3 audio ports. This one has 5 plus SPDIF. So there you go. So I guess with all that said and out of the way, I guess we'll go ahead and crack all this open and get to work. I already have a NVIDIA GTX 760 4GB RAM in here, so I decided to leave that alone because honestly I don't do that much gaming other than like DOS shooters from the 90s, and with those you can just do with onboard graphics, so there's really no need to have a graphics card. Occasionally I'll play Oblivion or Fallout or something like that, and with the GTX 760 you can get like super ultra graphics settings with that, so it's no big deal. I don't have any desire or anything to be playing Red Dead Redemption or something like that on the PC. I just don't care. So I didn't see the need to spend the money on a graphics card, so I'll just swap the graphics card out from here to there and go from there. Okay, I guess we'll see if this goes ahead and post and go from there. This is the most nerve-wracking part, is making sure it even turns on. Okay, here we go. So, I don't have any SATA connected, so, whatever. Let's see. XMP profile 1. Okay. Showing all the RAM is 2400 megahertz, and I guess it'll just show that, so probably have to exit and go from there. And what I'm wanting to do is see if I can flash the newest BIOS. Probably have to get on the wife's computer and download that to be able to apply. But we'll go ahead and save and exit. Are you sure? Yes. Okay. Okay, so now that we got the hard drives installed and everything else set up, let's go ahead and do a power on and see what we can figure out as far as doing a benchmark. And keep in mind that all my hard drives are actual physical hard drives. I don't have any sort of solid state memory. Yeah, I have extremely slow boot times because of that. Extremely slow boot times because of that. Oh, we have a desktop. We have icons. Let me see here if I can go through. I want to do CPU IZ and see if we can benchmark it against my previous processor. This will be kind of interesting. Okay. So here we got Ryzen 9, and we'll go ahead and zoom in on that. There we go. So we'll go to go to bench, preference. Preference will be a i7 4790. And bench. Wow. So, new processor is 350% more powerful than the old one. Wow, that's crazy. So yeah, so there you go. I could do, let's see how we could do, Nova Bench as well. Take a look at that. Wow. That's interesting. About 80 frames a second for the graphics test. I did a separate graphics test. I did the Heaven benchmark, and I was averaging about 30 frames a second. So definitely my graphics card is kind of long in the tooth. However, like I said at the beginning of the video, I don't do a lot of modern gaming on the PC, so it really doesn't matter. The graphics card just kind of is there to help Premiere render effects and that kind of thing. So yeah. But yeah, there you go. Out of everything, it looks like the bottleneck is definitely the hard drive. If I were to upgrade all the hard drives to solid state drives, and that would greatly boost everything. But oh well. So yeah. Okay, so I wanted to quickly run a benchmark with Cinebench, even though I don't do hardly any 3D anything at all. I just thought it would be interesting just to mess with, so I'll go ahead and run that. Okay, so on the first test I run, I forgot to hit record. And then the second test here we just ran, it shows that we're slightly behind Threadripper. However, the first test that I did, when it wasn't recording at the same time, it actually beat Threadripper. So I thought that's kind of interesting, just ever so slightly. I think it beat it by like 70 points or something like that. But yeah, that's astonishing to me that this little processor for half the price in Cinebench benchmark at least. And granted, this isn't real world application. This is, a benchmark. But at any rate, in Cinebench benchmark, it beat Threadripper by just a few points. I was astonished at that. But in real world applications, as you can see, those figures can change. Since I'm recording the footage of the screen, it docked my processor speed just a tad, and Threadripper was able to lunge forward. But that's still pretty astonishing to me. So yeah, there are all the benchmarks. Because after I put everything together, I checked my email, and Amazon actually sent me a promotion. So apparently, along with the Ryzen 9 chip, I also get a free download for Borderlands 3 and The Outer Worlds. I've really been looking forward to playing both of them. I just hadn't necessarily gone down to the store and bought them. So I was like, well, whatever, it's on PC, it's a free game, so it'll be fun. And so I immediately went into settings and told the game to optimize the settings based on my setup. And it came up with medium settings for all graphics. And I locked it at 1080p 60 because my monitor's 1080p. So with medium settings, 1080p 60, I was actually really impressed with how well it still looks. I mean, granted, like the text here, I have to get actually close to it for it to smooth out. But other than text anomalies, I mean, everything else looks fairly decent. I mean, look at all this. We even look at the ground here. The reflection and all that. I mean, it still looks pretty dang solid. Let's go outside for a second. And keep in mind that I'm playing this off of a 5400 RPM laptop hard disk drive. So for some reason, that's kind of where I put all my emulators and stuff, because honestly, it really doesn't matter. And so by extension, the few games I play on Steam and whatnot is also coming off that. So at some point, I'm really looking forward to transitioning everything to solid state media. Yeah, see, I mean, look at this. It's not too terribly bad. Honestly, I mean, this is pretty much right on par with the PlayStation 4. So as far as I'm concerned, as long as I can get an experience that's on par with PlayStation 4, then I'm fairly satisfied. So, I mean, yeah, this looks exactly like Fallout 4 on PlayStation 4 as far as the graphic goes. So, no big deal. Kind of walk around a little bit here. I have no idea what any of this stuff is. I only played it for a little bit last night. Or this morning, I guess. Whatever. Before I went to bed. But yeah, I mean, look at this. This isn't too terrible bad at all. And this is medium setting, guys. So, in all actuality, I don't think that my graphics card is really as long in the tooth as I initially assumed it was. Because, I mean, again, this is completely serviceable for me. I don't have to have 4K, super ultra, you know what? Oh, wrong button. Yeah, you hide behind that box. You hide behind that box. There. Got him. Oh, there's another one. Oh, there's another one. Where's he at? There he is. In the head. Boom. Got him. Okay, I guess that's everybody. Whatever. But yeah. So, yeah, it's not that bad at all. It's really not that bad at all. I know that when it comes to PC gamers, for the most part, that they whine and complain if they have to set it on high. But it's even on medium. I mean, this is completely serviceable. I mean, look at the big old planet thing. Look at that. Look at that other planet thing. And the northern lights. I mean, it all looks pretty good to me. The clouds probably could use some help. If it was on Ultra, I'm sure the clouds would look better. And I'm sure this isn't like the absolute cutting edge game when it comes to graphics. But, be that as it may, it still, to me, looks absolutely fantastic. Draw distance probably could use some help if the graphics card was like, you know, a 1660, or a 2060, or a 2080. But, I don't know. If I were to get a graphics card, I'd probably more than likely get a 1660, because I don't necessarily have any need for 4K whatsoever. So, I don't know, whatever, you know. So, yeah, that's really all I wanted to do with this, was I just wanted to quickly show off the video and the gameplay footage, and it's actually holding up a lot better than I thought it would, considering I bought this graphics card in, crap, when was it? 2014, and considering I only spent like $300 on it in 2014, so it wasn't the absolute bleeding edge, cutting edge graphics card. Of course, in 2014, I was still playing like Skyrim on Super Ultra, so it worked out really good. and I think I was averaging like 40 frames a second. This I hit it at 60. I locked this at 60. So this is actually even performing better on medium than Skyrim was on Super Ultra, and that game is 9 years old. So yeah, I don't know. It's pretty cool. I'm thoroughly impressed with how well this little GTX graphics card is holding up. So, all right. So in conclusion, when it comes to Ryzen 9 3900X, I am highly satisfied with the performance and the performance per cost ratio. I mean, as you saw just in that Cinebench benchmark, that for half the price, I was able to hold my own with Threadripper. If I'm not running anything else, it was actually showing that it beat Threadripper. So this little processor is really something else. So I would highly recommend, if you're looking to build a PC just on sheer computing power, to give Ryzen a chance. And that's basically why I went after Ryzen, because I need sheer computing power, especially when it comes to exporting in Premiere. It seems to me like more cores just basically means faster exports, and that's all I care about. Is once it's time to export, this hour-long video, or once it's time to export this Blu-ray or some other thing like that, how quickly can we do it? We need to get it done quickly. And so the tests I've been doing, Ryzen's just been blowing my mind when it comes to getting that done. Now, like I said before, all the hard drives in my computer, all the storage in my computer is all mechanical hard drives. So at some point I need to just start upgrading all those so I can unleash the pure, unadulterated power of Ryzen 9 and the faster RAM, the faster CPU, and all that other stuff. But until that happens, I'll just have to hobble along with stats from 2008. So, yeah. And the PC isn't completely built yet. I still have a VGA card coming in because I run a VGA monitor. So right now I have the VGA monitor going through my GTX 760. I don't really want to have the VGA monitor going through the same graphics card as that I'm actually using. So I got a GTX 210, I think. And hopefully that'll work out, and I'll be able to offload just the secondary monitors strictly to that particular graphics card. And I don't know if there's any real world implications to it, but in theory, in my head, it seems like it'd be a better idea to at least have all of the processes and processors and computation for the GTX 760 completely dedicated to the HDMI monitor, and free up the secondary monitor for a secondary graphics card. And since my onboard motherboard no longer has VGA like my other one did, I had to get a secondary graphics card. So I got that coming in, and also at some point I need to get an M2 1TB storage device for my boot drive. I think that would greatly speed everything up as far as that goes. And I'm still tinkering with the fans. I may get an additional intake fan. I'm not really sure. The fans are kind of wonky. I'm still trying to get used to that, because with my previous case, I didn't have any fan customization. There was just one fan, or one exhaust fan, and that was it. There was no intake fans. There was no anything, because the case wasn't slotted for that. It was an OEM case from a pre-built HP. And so, yeah. So it's a learning experience trying to figure out how all this stuff works out and trying to get it to work out. But I think for the most part, I got everything great. I mean, it was 2.5 hour build, and then I just dunked my existing hard drive in, hit the power button, and we're up and running. So, yeah. But I guess that's all there is to say. So thanks for watching, and peace out.